is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Shannon, thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's get this out of the way up front. You and President Trump not always fans of each other. He posted on social media earlier this year, he's one of the most liberal lunatics ever to run for office. A phony radical left fool whose poll numbers are terrible and getting worse. The New Yorker said just a couple of weeks ago this: in a recent text exchange, Kennedy told one person that Trump was a terrible human being, the worst president ever and barely human. He is probably a sociopath. Now, I haven't read your text, so you can speak to that, but how did you get from that position to Friday night?
Well, it became clear to me that I did not have a path to victory. 16 months of censorship, of not being able to get on any network really except for Fox. And I had, in fact, when Ross Perot ran, in the 10 months that he ran, he had 34 appearances on the networks. I had 2 appearances in 16 months. So I was blocked out from the networks. I was blocked out from the debate. I had no path to victory. President Trump had been reaching out to me. And I talked to him a few hours after the assassination attempt, and we had a long conversation by phone. I then had 2 extensive meetings, and there were issues, the broad issues that were most important to me, the ones that brought me into the campaign, which was ending the Ukraine war, ending the censorship, and protecting children's health. We're all reforming our food supply, all the things that we need to do to make our children healthy again. Those are all things that President Trump also wanted to work on. And he invited me to form a unity government. We agreed that we'd be able to continue to criticize each other on issues on which we don't agree. But these issues are so important in their way of unifying our country. We need in this country to reach a point where we love our children more than we hate each other.
It's a good unifying theme that I think a lot of people could get around. It's how we get there. That's always the devil is in the details. Have you all negotiated over or talked about a cabinet position, another position within a Trump government in exchange for your endorsement?
No, there's been no commitments. But I met with President Trump, with his family, with his closer advisors, and we just made a general commitment that we were going to work together.
What about the states where you're trying to get off of a number of swing state ballots to say, I'm going to stay on a number of state ballots, but in these swing states, I'm going to try to withdraw myself and ask my supporters, or at least you're telling them, think about supporting President Trump. Did you negotiate over which states you would try to withdraw from?
Yeah, I mean, we all knew which states they were. There basically is 10 swing states where my presence in the race would have helped Vice President Harris and would have harmed President Trump. So I'm going to get off the ballot in those states, and then we're going to stay on the ballot in 30 states. And, I'm encouraging people to vote for me in those states. Those are states with the votes. They're either all red or all blue states where their votes are not going to change the outcome of the race. But in the states where I would have been a spoiler, I'm going to get out. So it's about 10 states.
Okay, so there were reports a couple weeks ago citing an official from your camp and also a Democratic official saying that there'd been outreach to the Harris camp as well to possibly discuss you working within the Harris administration in exchange for an endorsement of her. Is that true? And what happened with that?
I reached out to them on the same basis that I reached out to President Trump, and we actually talked to other presidential candidates, including Chase Oliver and the Libertarian Party, about figuring out ways that we could end the polarization and the hatred and the vitriol, start talking about issues. And I was welcome to listen to anything from the Democrats that they were going to do something about the war, about the Ukraine war, about the censorship, about the child health crisis, this epidemic of chronic disease that has now disabled about 60% of our kids. And when my uncle was president, Shannon, only 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, over 60% do. And it's hard to find a kid today that's not been damaged by it. And it's coming from our food supply, from pollution in our environment, from toxics in our environment. and mainly from corruption in our government that allows that to happen.
You've talked about, or there's been discussion that if you were to join the Trump administration in some health-related position, that you have real interest in dismantling things like the FDA, the CDC, NIH. You would like to see a focus away from infectious diseases to what you're talking about, more chronic diseases. Is it fair to say that you would try to dismantle some of those organizations?
No, I wouldn't dismantle them. I would change the focus, and I would end the corruption. Right now, 75% of FDA's budget is coming from pharmaceutical companies. That is a perverse incentive. In NIH, if you scientists and officials in NIH who work on drug development, who incubate drugs for the pharmaceutical company, get to collect lifetime royalties from those products. These are regulators. They're supposed to be looking for problems in those products. We have these agencies that have become sock puppets for the industries they're supposed to regulate. So they're not really interested in public health. Everybody, the most profitable thing today in America is a sick child. Everybody is making money. The hospitals are making money. The pharmaceutical companies are making money. Even the insurance companies make money. And we need to end those perverse incentives. We need to get the corruption out of FDA, out of NIH, out of CDC, and make them function as they're supposed to function, which is to protect public health and particularly children's health.
I'm going to go back to your decision from Friday. Both you and Nicole Shanahan, your running mate, have talked about how you feel like the Democrats completely mistreated you, excluded you from the process. How much of your decision Friday is about revenge or motivated by punishing Democrats in some way?
Zero. I don't act in anything in my life. I don't act out of anger or revenge or resentment. It's a bad motivation. It's like swallowing poison and hoping someone else will die. And so I don't do it. I am very pragmatic and practical, and I am focused on one thing, which is how do we restore health for our children? And that touches many, many other issues. How do we regenerate our soils in this country? How do we protect small family farmers? The incentives are all going to commodity agriculture, and that's what is feeding this chronic disease epidemic, the processed foods that are created by commodity agriculture. So we need to do all of these things at once. Protect small farmers, restore our soils, regenerative agriculture, and to get the corruption out of the federal government and make these agencies do what they were created to do, which is to protect our health and not serve the mercantile interests of the pharmaceutical companies and the processed food industry.
This decision is not without personal cost for you. Your own family went to the White House on St. Patrick's Day, took a huge picture with President Biden, made clear who they were supporting. Friday night, your siblings issued this statement. We believe in Harrison Waltz. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. You posted on X Friday night saying you're grateful to your amazing wife because the decision that you've made is one that she's uncomfortable with. So talk to us about the personal backlash you have to deal with in moving forward.
I mean, my family is at the center of the Democratic Party. I have 5 members of my family that are working for the Biden administration. President Biden has a bust of my father behind him at the Oval Office. He's been a family friend for many, many years. And my family is, I understand that they're troubled by my decisions, but, I love my family. I feel like we were raised in a milieu where we were encouraged to debate each other and debate ferociously and passionately about things, but to still love each other. So, they can, they're free to take their positions on these issues. There are many, many members of my family who are working in my campaign, who are supporting me. I have a very big family. There's a few of them that are troubled. But, I think we all need to be able to disagree with each other and still love each other.
Wall Street Journal has this. They say it's a double-edged sword, essentially, that it may help President Trump to pick up some of your followers if they're willing to go over there. But they warn about what you would do in his administration. They say this: RFK Jr., if he's anywhere near the healthcare or environmental agencies in a Trump administration, look out. Mr. Trump's best response is to thank RFK Jr. for his support, make no promises about the future, and by all means avoid joint campaign appearances. You've already had one. Will you have others? Will you campaign for President Trump?
I'm going to be campaigning actively. I think President Trump is going to make a series of announcements about other Democrats who are joining his campaign. And you know, I want to make America healthy again, and so does President Trump. So those are objectives. You know, the Wall Street Journal may be worried about shareholder value for pharmaceutical companies, and I think, you know, I talked specifically to President Trump about that issue, and he said that he wanted to leave as his legacy healthy children, and that, you know, that that he was unconcerned about the other implications.
All right, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., thank you for your time today. We'll see you on the campaign trail then.
Shannon, thanks so much for having me.